Hey, welcome to Revisiting the Mania, a WrestleMania rewatch podcast. I'm Carlos,
And I'm Maria.
and today we are going to be revisiting WrestleMania 34, which surprisingly did not have a tagline. It just takes place in New Orleans. And we have a returning guest, our three-time returning guest, Demetrius, who actually attended this event live. So
Yeah. And souvenirs to boot. So WrestleMania 34 shirt, ready to represent for it, and these familiar faces, the WrestleMania 34 cup.
Wow.
I
So
actually have
WWE gets all of my money, tickets and merch.
Yeah, I actually bought a cup. I was when we went to WrestleMania 40. No one else had thought about buying a souvenir cup in the group that I was, and I bought two. And they were gonna fill. They filled one because I was actually thirsty, but they were gonna fill the second one with a drink. And I'm like, please don't. I'm just gonna.
Please,
uh,
there's too many ounces right here. No.
Like there's only so much pop I could drink.
Yeah,
That's
and plus
okay.
it was cold.
That's true too.
So what have you been up to, Demetrius?
Good to see you all. I've on the personal front, things are pretty much consistent. Coming to you still from Columbus, Ohio. WWE doesn't come here as much, but AEW sprinkles in a few things here and there. But life is good. Life is really good.
That's awesome.
That's good to hear. So
Well, I'm excited to talk about this WrestleMania
okay.
because you went to New Orleans and New Orleans is fun in general. So, can you tell us about the experience, like walking you up to going to this WrestleMania?
And how long,
Yeah.
did you get the tickets right away? I remember you had a nice story when you were trying to get the WrestleMania tickets for 22 in Chicago. So,
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as dramatic as 22 trying it because in New Orleans they do everything in the dome, so it's like 70 some odd thousand folks there, whereas Allstate Arena was like 16,000 or so, so tickets were a lot more scarce. But no, the coincidence though is that a friend of mine was having her wedding there. She's from New Orleans. Lived in Chicago at the time. We both did, and she let me know that her wedding was going to be on that weekend. Really wasn't an invitation to come to the wedding, but just more of an FYI. We were friends at that time, and I told her, "Listen, WrestleMania is on this date in New Orleans, so odds are I hadn't gotten tickets yet, but I will be in this town around the time of your wedding. So I don't know if that somehow retrofitted me an invitation to the wedding, but sure enough, I got tickets to the event and got an invitation to the wedding. So it was the best of all worlds, and that has nothing to do with New Orleans in and of itself. Just two fun events happening at the same time. You layer on the Crescent City down there and Bourbon Street and all of that. It was, I'm losing track. I think it might have been my fourth or fifth time being down there at that point, and it does not get old. There's just something about that culture. Like you said, everything is just so lively and fun, and people are so engaging. Like, so if you're an introvert, that is not your town. But if you like random people coming up, starting conversations and mingling and doing all that, this is your town.
New
okay,
Orleans is a
so
lot of
Maria
fun.
will enjoy it more when she goes again than I will because I'd say that I'm more of an introvert than she is.
There's something for everyone. There's ghost tours, there's drinking tours, historical tours. They have a really good art district. They have really good music. They have a really good food scene.
Oh yeah.
So you name it, there's something there for everyone. I had a really great time in New Orleans. And then, like you said, on top of that, a WrestleMania, I can't even imagine, and a wedding, how exciting that must have been.
Yeah. And for people that might be watching for the very first time, this primarily was a WrestleMania podcast that we started because we were attending WrestleMania 40 for the first time. I had never been one to attend one like D had, but I've been a long time viewer. And my wife also had never attended one, but she had never watched a WrestleMania from beginning to end. And since WrestleCon was also going to be something we attended when we went to Philadelphia, I didn't want to have Maria feel like she's left out because she didn't know any of the older wrestlers that weren't like famous that might not be there, like that would have been at WrestleCon, like a Jake the Snake Roberts, Ric Flair, which obviously she knew, but a Tito Santana.
Yeah.
She probably knew of a Tito Santana, but she didn't know of Tito Santana's work.
Hey, D, we probably talked about this, but the last time we met Tito Santana, I actually got a kiss on the cheek the second time I saw him. So
Yeah.
Mr. Ariba, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, he's the top photo over. I think we said that last
I
time
see
too. Over my
him.
kind of wall of wrestlers with the red shirt and the white trunks.
He's like a really awesome wrestler and one of my favorites.
Huh?
So,
Mhm.
wrestling fans, friends, get ready because we're going to revisit WrestleMania 34. Like we said, it's in Louisiana, New Orleans, and it's 2018. There were over 65,000 fans in attendance, and we had Daniel Bryant that was coming back to wrestling.
yeah,
Right?
he had been out because of uh, health issues, primarily with his neck, concussion issues, and he's making his grand return, getting cleared from doctors, doing all the holistic work. And we're gonna get into that match, and we're gonna get into all these matches. We're gonna go one by one, pick out which match me as a seasoned viewer, normally when it's just me and Maria. But now we have D giving another perspective as someone that was there, because maybe the matches were a little bit better in person than they were watching it. And Maria, as being a first time viewer of WrestleMania 34, she'll give her opinion as a person who may be seeing WrestleMania for the first time. Whether it's this WrestleMania or the future one to come, WrestleMania 41 that comes from Las Vegas, who may want to see what a WrestleMania event is all about.
And if you
Talk
haven't
about
already,
fun
make sure that
cities.
you're right, like New Orleans and Las Vegas, both
Right?
great cities. I've never been to Reno. Have you been to Reno before?
Haven't
It's the
been.
biggest little city in the world.
So this is the second WrestleMania that's been held at this venue. We also had WrestleMania 30 here.
Yeah.
So with that, let's get into match number 1.
Yeah. 3 stars, 1 title. Seth Rollins, The Miz, and Finn Balor. What did you think, Maria? You have 3 of these guys: Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, The Miz.
Well, I want to get the setup live because Dee was there as part of the audience.
Oh yeah, I do
I
have
want to
pictures
know,
of
like,
that.
I'm like, what's the momentum? What is that match like for you? We had a couple of matches that went on before. I think we
Mhm.
had like a 30 and 1. And then we also had like maybe a 20 person match as well for the
Yeah, we had the
women
battle royals, but
battle royals. So
like you said, let's get a picture of the backdrop. Does this
Yeah,
bring back any bells for you?
that was great.
It looked
So
like a
even the
great
night
stage.
before, you know how they like to do the reveal of the set. So Saturday night before they were 2-night WrestleManias, I got on socials and then saw the masquerade mask and the Mardi Gras colors, and it was phenomenal. So I thought they did a great job with the backdrop. Um, the and kind of looking at the upper deck right there in the crowd, that's about how it was when we walked in, because my wife and I attended, and we were there for the pre-show, if you will, the dark matches. So we saw the various Andre the Giant battle royals and things of that nature, and they were fine, but they were sparsed out over like a 2-hour pregame. So we were antsy. Everyone wants the show to start. So then when this triple threat kicks off with these great names for the IC title, and these guys can work, we were all hyped. So the set was on point. The first match, the momentum leading up to it was on point. The entrances
Yeah.
were all good for these 3.
Yeah, so here we go. Miz was the Intercontinental Champion. Finn Balor and Seth Rollins, which already had history before this, because Finn Balor was the undisputed champion that he won in the tournament, and then he gets injured, and then Seth Rollins beats him, and then Seth Rollins gets injured, and he has to vacate that title too, from like the year before. So anything else that you want to get into before we start breaking down this match, as far as someone being there in person and catching this, besides what you've already said?
Yeah, just even as we kind of get into it, I won't go too far in it. I definitely want to hear what you two have to say, but they the anticipation that you had like 3 good workers, and that was at the point where the Miz was still fringe, right? Like people respect a lot about Finn. They respect Seth at that point. He had accomplished a lot. The Miz, great, awesome character, right? Great heel, can get heat, but what could he do in the ring, right? And he had some good matches at that point. He had main event at WrestleMania at that point, but I don't think he really, I don't know, had that respect of the fans. So I think this was a chance for him to really show that. And I think for the most part he did during this match all by himself.
Yeah, Maria, who were
I
you rooting for?
I was rooting for. I'm a fan of the Miz. I thought everyone looked really good. Everyone looked great. Also a fan of Seth Rollins. So I thought the vibe coming out was really good, and that this was a very good introductory match to this WrestleMania 34. It felt like Seth Rollins was out there to like steal the whole damn show. The Miz being a little sneaky, like you said, he's a heel. So I thought it was cool. The pace of the match itself was really good, nonstop, high energy, no rest holds, only bangers. I had a lot of good feelings about this match.
Yeah, like you mentioned, this is a very high energy match, and from what the D is telling us, being there in the crowd, being there for that 2 hour, if New Orleans was anything like it was for us in Philadelphia to get through the gates, you want to get there early because you want to get to your seat early. You want to get to the merch stand early to see whatever, your WrestleMania was only one day. Ours was two. So we could have
Yeah.
chose one day to come early and get the merch and then come late the other day. But I understand, like, for someone like you who was there for this one, you want to get there early. You want to get there when the gates open. You want to get your merch. You want to get your sweatshirt. You want to get your souvenir cups. You want something to remember that you were at WrestleMania if for some reason you can't. So, this to be there for 2 hours and then have this match, this was like, I think, a perfect match to pick someone up. Like you said, you've been there, you're struggling, you're probably like on your third, fourth beer, or maybe even more. So this was probably like a way, like you said, good. It was fast paced action. It had innovative spots. We have like a couple of pictures that I was able to grab. So we have Finn doing this tope that he still does to this day. Here we as he's getting older, he still manages to do it. But the innovative spots that I like, and maybe Maria also alluded to this earlier, is towards the end, towards the finish, we got a curb stomp on top of a curb stomp for Seth Rollins as he's gonna pull off this victory, and then he gives another curb stomp to the Miz, and he is now Intercontinental Champion and one to, I believe, get the Grand Slam in this newer generation of wrestlers. So,
Well,
what do you think?
what were good spots for you during this match?
It was a consistent thing. Like the finish was good, and that's the beauty of a triple threat match for me. Usually they do a good job with the false finishes. Like you might have an idea who would win, but where is it going to come from, and what's going to be that 2.9? So they had a lot of good false finishes. I really didn't know going into this one who was going to win. The sort of real life at that time, and they played it up on the announce on the telecast, was that the Miz had just become a father. Him and Maurice, the Miztourage tried to come back, tried to come out with them, and he sent them back. He's trying to be an honorable dad now and do it all by himself, right? So it's those type of things where you're like, okay, he may be taking some time off right now, but between Seth and Finn, I actually thought that Finn was going to win it. So when Seth won it, just as a fan, it surprised me just a little bit. Like, wasn't outright shocked that Seth won, but it just kind of feeds into this like fast-paced, high work rate, characters that the fans are invested in. I was invested in. I think it was a great first match throughout.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of good triple threat matches at a WrestleMania, especially ones that have started off. But whether it's a tag team, like where we had like the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys. So this was a triple threat that I felt like lived up to all the excitement, mainly because like it wasn't like sometimes we get like the older veteran paired down with the new up and comer, like we had before in the past, like when we had Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, like in like WrestleMania 2000, where Jericho had the Intercontinental. No, Kurt Angle had the Intercontinental and the U.S. title, and then he ended up losing both.
Yep.
So it was a good surprise. You know, when you're booking these matches, like which one would you have start off? There's so many that you could have had. You know, you could have had the next match that we're gonna get into, Charlotte versus Asuka. You know, started off too. So they certainly picked the right match to get everyone hyped up. That seemed like we needed it. Would I recommend this match? Yeah, definitely recommend that someone go out there, whether you're a newer fan to wrestling or a seasoned veteran that hasn't watched this match in a while, because I believe this is a match that if you're booking a card and knowing the talent that you're working with and how quickly and how well they're able to mesh and have that chemistry together, you'd want someone to go out there just to get the crowd hype, especially now with these WrestleManias having kickoffs. Like they had a kickoff in Philadelphia at the Philly Stadium next door, next to the Eagles Stadium. So it was like, oh, they're trying to make it an all-day thing. So you're gonna want to come with something that's gonna catch the audience and get them hyped up and out of their seats.
Catch me with a blanket so I could take a nap somewhere.
Maria, what about you? You're the fresh pair of eyes here. What do you think?
Okay, so some big moments for me. I think Seth had some really good moments where he had that pop with the crowd. He had like a super, what do you call it, superplex falcon? I don't know if that's his
Falcon
move.
Arrow.
Falcon Arrow. Where the crowd went really wild. We had really good drop kicks by Finn, and is it WrestleMania worthy for WrestleMania 34? Absolutely. I think this was a hot opener. They had really good chemistry, all three of them, and we had really good wrestling to kick off this WrestleMania. Is it worth revisiting? I'd say 100%. It's just a really good match to show you some really decent wrestling. Like you said, triple threat, good pace, good action.
Indeed.
Without a doubt. I would recommend this one. For all the things that you said, you both said, it was the great opening match. I don't even think this match necessarily needed the Intercontinental title to be as good or important as it was, but you add that on top of it, and it was the perfect recipe for a starter. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And with that, we'll move on to Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. Charlotte ended the streak of the Empress of Tomorrow.
My brain is broken when I see her name because I want to say Asuka, but I know it's Asuka.
And unfortunately, Japanese is and Japanese is not our native language. If you guys watching out there haven't figured it out, so you know it is kind of weird to the eyes when you're looking at her name.
Asuka means sugar in Spanish, so that's what I'm like. Oh, it's not that.
Yeah. So Charlotte ended the streak. What do you think, Dee? Was it the right call or missed opportunity for Asuka's legacy? Because I know where I fit in here. I'm gonna ask you before we get into Maria.
Okay. At the time, I was surprised. I have to think about this in terms of like two frames of mind. Like after the fact, I can look back and say, well, of course they had Charlotte win because this is what the WWE does. They have Charlotte win. And that was back when Vince was in control, and of course, like if a streak like that is going to be snapped, similar to the Undertaker streak, like it's got to be somebody worthy of it. And at that time, Charlotte, of course, was deemed worthy of it. And I got no beef with Charlotte Flair. She's great and in some ways deserving of it. But that's after the fact. In the moment, I wanted Asuka to keep going. I did not want. She had been undefeated for 914 or so days. Yeah, like she was just a force of nature. I had a very fun character. She didn't even need to speak to just be engaging. All right, like yeah, I wasn't really pleased with the decision at the time in the moment, but they still told a good story during the match. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
And Maria.
Well, the match was solid for me. I am a fan of a Flair. And I know that Carlos is a big time fan of Asuka. We see some really good chain wrestling. So they're both really good wrestlers, and the wrestling match itself was smooth. Was I rooting for Charlotte? I was. I'm newer to wrestling. Asuka's a great wrestler herself, but I was rooting for her. Also, as far as the win is concerned, I could see why it was painful for you guys because she had that undefeated streak for that many days. It seems like just over a year. So I could see why it was upsetting.
Yeah. It was something that like I agree. Like everything, the way it was booked, the way she's been booked in NXT, because this is her rise to the main roster when she won the Royal Rumble. That she had been undefeated, and I thought maybe she would be getting like good with Vince. But as we're finding out a little bit more, like since Vince has been gone, there have been articles, there have been like leaks that Vince was pretty much like crapping on anyone that Hunter thought would be the next big thing when they came up to NXT.
Wow.
So this
Mhm.
was probably one of those things where Vince is like, well, Hunter might feel like she's the next big thing, but I don't think she is. And that's probably what ended up
Yeah.
happening. They ended up booking, because they both are technically sound from what we see here. Like Asuka has been wrestling for a very long time over in Stardom and things like that. The Japanese women's wrestling promotion that they have out there.
Right.
And she's just as technically sound as Charlotte, but she's known to bring the kicks, and she brought the kicks, especially here and one of these things. But eventually, like Dee already said, we did get the loss. She gets the spear in here. Charlotte locks in the figure eight, and Charlotte retains.
Well, we also see a really good suplex from Asuka as well, off the apron, and she's such a great wrestler. It just looked like,
Yeah.
she's as smooth as butter. She did a really great job.
Yeah, so it was like you all mentioned, it was a well-paced match, and I feel like it had good psychology between it because you had, Asuka's the like the unstoppable force or the undefeated force, and I felt like, to me, the way I looked at it is completely different to probably how Vince was booking it. Because to me, Asuka was still an underdog, even though she had been undefeated for that long. And the way they were booking it, like Charlotte's the champion. So why would she be the underdog? She's facing up a streak, but Asuka doesn't have a championship. And she came up from their developmental brand.
Mhm.
So it was kind of weird, like the way they're trying to tell you. But if you fall into the narrative that they're feeding you there for that match, it fits. Like Asuka was supposed to be the one to dethrone Charlotte, but Charlotte overcame the odds and she ends up winning. And like I think the audience that you had there with you probably was going to be excited either way if Charlotte won or if Asuka won. But for me, as being a fan of Asuka, I would have preferred that, and I feel like the payoff still would have gone there because then you have the streak, and then you can book it a little bit differently. Like maybe her losing, Asuka losing, like it probably give you a little bit more freedom to like start fresh with her and try to find
Mhm.
another program for her. But you still have something there, like Maria mentioned, like with the streak. If she would have won it, she would have kept that momentum going. Then whoever you put the belt on next will have that gravitas, that pedigree of Asuka beat Charlotte. Now and Asuka's now have been undefeated for so many days, kind of like how we have it now with like Roman Reigns is undefeated for like over 900
1,000
days.
some odd
Yeah,
days, didn't he?
yeah. Before he lost it to Cody Rhodes. So imagine if you would have had like that before we got to Roman Reigns, but on the women's side, I think it would have given it a little bit more credibility for whoever was to able to dethrone Asuka.
The only thing that was weird for me is when Asuka said at the end, was Charlotte ready for Asuka? was kind
Yeah.
of random.
Yeah.
I'm what did you think about it, D?
At the moment, like, so, they have the face-to-face at the end, and it's like, well, what's gonna happen is I don't think Asuka was doing the mist at that point, but, like, is there gonna be some funny business here? But she showed her respect, which tracks with Asuka's kind of character, her scripted character and her, like, essence character, right? Like, who she really is as a person. So it was cool, but it's funny, kind of, again, in the moment you feel one way about it, and then as the night plays on, they have a similar type of after the
Yeah.
match, face to face, and you just wonder if one was done to set up the other, when we
I'm
get to
pretty
the
sure
to
it
the
was.
other championship match later on. But just to kind of go back to the ending, it was Charlotte with the figure eight with a
Hmm.
bum arm, and
Yeah,
it
because
just to the point of her kind of overcoming the odds. I couldn't remember, like, was she the heel in this match? I know Asuka wasn't the heel, so it was either
yeah, she
face
was
versus
supposed to.
face.
That's what I was telling you. Like the whole
Yeah.
psychology of it. If you're thinking about it, like, hey, if you're thinking about it in your fandom, like, who's the heel? Because you're cheering for Asuka, but you're also cheering for Charlotte in a way too. Because, like you said, you're okay either way, but you were more leaning towards Asuka,
Yeah,
and I
totally.
was leaning more toward Asuka. But the way everything was coming off, it doesn't. You don't have a heel, like, technically. Like, Charlotte can also be heel-ish at times, and you see a
Mhm.
little bit of it there as far as like her attitude, but as far as like her heelish tendencies, like like whatever move she does inside the ring, it's not there. But it was totally like, if you're thinking about it now, like Monday quarterback, everything's hindsight's 2020. You don't have it there. But as far as the match is concerned, as far as the storytelling of the match, which we have to go by here, Charlotte was the one that was booked to win, and Charlotte overcame the odds. Charlotte was the one that Vince wanted to win. And if you look at that story from beginning to end like that, that's how that, the match makes sense. But looking at it as a fan, where you have to choose a favorite, like we normally have Maria do, whether she was a fan of
Mhm.
Asuka or Charlotte, it doesn't make sense that way.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, it's
so
kind of
do you
weird.
think this match for somebody that's like either gonna rewatch WrestleMania 34 like we have been,
Mhm.
or that's interested in wrestling, would you suggest that they revisit this match?
I would. I would, despite we were kind of breaking it down, like splitting hairs a bit, but like high level, I would recommend this match for the star power, the fact that they delivered and told a great story from a psychology standpoint. Like Carlos said, it was really good. The submission moves of Asuka damaging the arm, which could impair the figure eight, but ultimately wasn't enough to impair the figure eight and all of that. I really thought these two should have had a submission match, but that's almost beside the point now. But for this match, for what it was, I would recommend it. It continued the momentum of the first match. I think they kind of came out with two bangers in this one. Usually that second match is like, okay, let's get some concessions, right? You don't want to go on second, but they followed up a good number one with the great number two.
Right.
Yeah. What about you, babe?
Well, at this match, 13 minutes and 5 seconds. Would I recommend this? I would definitely. You have two really great wrestlers, and for me, they're top tier. If you're an Asuka fan, like these two gents, you might be a little bit, I don't want to say bitter about her
Faulty.
losing, is it? Losing the streak. I get it. Was it WrestleMania worthy? For sure. So, yep, watch it, revisit.
And I also recommend that people revisit this match, just because this is a textbook. I guess you could say this is a textbook match on how to book two talents where you don't have a heel and a face. Like I mentioned to D, and D actually brought that up. This is probably how you go along, like having the audience decide who they cheer for. Sometimes you don't know, like newer fans, they're just watching it for the first time, and they have to make up their mind on who they want to cheer for, because they have no idea who Charlotte is or who Asuka is. this is like their first time, and someone magically gave them WrestleMania tickets, or they're like, WrestleMania, this is something that someone, oh, my husband drugged me along, or someone else drugged me along to go along.
Give us WrestleMania tickets.
I know, but this match, like, it set you up. It had beats for you to pretty much make up your choice on who you wanted to root for, and it gave you a satisfying win if you were a Charlotte fan, because she overcame the odds. She overcame a bloody elbow. And the technical execution of Asuka, who was focusing on her elbow. So she overcame the odds to beat the streak of Asuka.
So that takes us to match number 3, a whole 8 minutes, 15 seconds. I want to know who you all are fans of, because we have Jinder Mahal,
Bobby Roode, Rusev Day, and Maria's favorite, Randy Orton.
One of my favorites is also Bobby Roode.
Yeah, for the U.S. Championship. So you must have been very torn when you had to make a choice on who to root for. But what do you think? This is the third match. We went from Asuka streak here to this fatal 4-way. Would you say that you had mentioned, like, usually the second match is the cool down match after a hot match? Would you say that this is the cooler match then?
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Yeah. We're going to get to a do not recommend from the start. I'm just going to say, yeah, you can tell when just stuff is thrown together. Like, let's get everybody on the card type of match. Like, the first clue is that Randy Orton has the U.S. title. What? Why? Like, it's so something already doesn't fit. And then you have these other characters in there, like, so Bobby Roode's entrance is great, respectable guy, but beyond that, not much. Jinder Mahal, he had a good run for when he was the champ, but they just kind of threw him in here, in my opinion. And then Rusev Day, who was actually hot. I really liked that angle at that time and really hoped that he would win the match. And the fact that they didn't, we know who it was. It was Vince. The fact that they didn't, just took every bit of energy or excitement that I would have had for that match out of it. So, nah. Could have went to the bathroom.
We have Dee's opinion on it. What about you, Maria?
Well, I can tell you, when's the first time that we watched Bobby Roode wrestle?
We saw him in NXT. It might have been earlier that year, or if not in 2017 when he was in NXT, but we attended an NXT show, the one where Johnny Gargano and DIY break up. Is the one that we attended.
Pivotal one.
Yeah. So aesthetically, I'm a fan of Bobby Roode. Like, I'll never forget that entrance. Also the pop of the crowd. Everyone was chanting his introduction. Definitely a fan of Bobby Roode, his gear, and Randy Orton. So I'm rooting for them. But like Dee said, this match was lackluster for me. I was excited to see two of my favorite wrestlers wrestling, but the match is kind of off for me. Who are you rooting for?
If anyone, I would have been like Dee, where like Rusev was hot. So if you're a smart mark, we're making predictions and things like that, you would think that the belt would go to Rusev. He was hot. We even had Aiden English coming out there and hyping everybody up about Rusev Day. And that's it. We didn't get anything. We got but
it seemed like Rusev was an MVP, definitely, with the crowd.
Yeah.
And the energy was really strong when he was out there. And, the other three, unfortunately, might as well have been furniture, because it just seemed like people were not that excited.
Yeah. And like Dee mentioned, we got Randy Orton again in a multiple man match at a WrestleMania. If he's not in a triple threat match, he is in this fatal 4-way match in a title. I don't think we've seen Randy Orton in a single man match at a WrestleMania since we've been doing it. If we has, I can't remember the last one. It might have been with John Cena or something like that.
So I get Dee's sentiment. Is this a revisit for you?
No, this is not a revisit for me. Like, it's like It's a solid match, but it feels more like something you'd watch at a Monday Night Raw, like something like it's very like it has very mid card like if they had given it like more time to cook, instead of like was it what'd you say 8 minutes?
Yeah.
It was like an 8 minute match.
8 minutes,
No, yeah.
15 seconds.
But I understand
Yeah.
that they probably had to cut short because this WrestleMania had 11 matches
Mhm.
total, and we're already a third of the or not even a third, quarter of the way, almost there, and it's already been like an hour because we have like the entrances, we have the Star Spangled Banner that's or not the Star Spangled America the Beautiful that's being sung by the local talent there. So we're already going there, and we have 4 more hours to go, and we had to make cuts and things like that. And this is unfortunately one of those matches that had to be cut. But
Well,
what can
that's
you
where
do?
I'll disagree. I'm glad it didn't go longer than it did. I'm really just have my heater hat on right now. I don't think they could have done anything to salvage that match other than give the fans what they wanted, which was Rusev winning. If Rusev would have won, maybe it changes the tenor of everything. No pun intended with Eden English going out there. That stuff again. That was a good angle for Rusev after the whole Lana thing, and they just missed an opportunity there. I don't know why, but yeah, since they
But
didn't do that, then cut it. I'm glad it wasn't more
I'm
than eight
sure
minutes.
the whole reason why is because Vince is just trying to still get himself into the India market. And so Jinder Mahal is there, and he's supposed to be one of those talents that are from there to help him get in there. So you had, if you're traveling and you're doing those tours over there in India and things like that, you got to have a face. You got to have someone to be like, well, there's our champion. Let's go ahead and get it. Kind of like how when they started doing those Saudi shows over there, they
Yeah.
picked up Mansoor. So, and he was their champion, and he won like that
Yeah.
first, where they picked him out of the crowd. They're like, you, and he beats, I forget who he beats, but he beats somebody, and then the crowd goes wild.
So the only
Yeah.
thing glorious about this match for me was Bobby Roode.
There you go.
Was it worth revisiting? Like, if you need to have a bathroom break, but if you also are a fan of Rusev, I would recommend that you watch this match. It was really, the fans were wild for him, and I guess he had a moment in this WrestleMania. So this is like a mid-card filler, like you guys said. I think you said it felt more like a SmackDown event or
Yeah, it could have been something you watch on TV,
than a
SmackDown, Raw,
WrestleMania
whatever.
moment.
Yeah.
But watch it for Rusev, and you can really forget the rest, even though, again, like I said, I'm a fan of Bobby and definitely a fan of legend killer Randy Orton. So that's what I got.
And with that, it's a all skip from us, and we move on to the next match, which is
I think this might be my favorite match
Yeah.
of this WrestleMania.
yeah, we go
And I know
from
people have comments, so I'm very interested to
so we
hear
go
what you
from
have
the
to say.
chaotic 4-way to
Another chaotic 4-way?
well, kind of, to a match that promised us a new era in the WWE as we get Rowdy, Ronda Rousey, and Kurt Angle making his in-ring WrestleMania return versus The Authority, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon.
But like, hats off to her for that Roddy Piper.
The Roddy Piper shirt, like the tribute, like she had the Ronda kind of like the hot rod type of thing. She got a jacket. I don't believe it's his jacket. I know that the announcers are saying that this is the jacket that Roddy Piper gave her, but this is a little bit more of an updated leather jacket that she's actually wearing.
I'm a fan of it, just like we saw Bailey in the last WrestleMania where she had her shout out for, what was it?
Macho Man with the streamers.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of a throwback. Big fan of Kurt Angle, not an acute angle. Kurt Angle. I think he's a really amazing wrestler. So Dee, what did you think about this match?
I'm going to show you some love right off the bat and say that, I mean, this was one of my favorites on the card too, in the moment and after the fact. A long match, but it did not feel slow at all. I think they
Was it
did
the entrance that you
wonderfully
were a
with that.
fan of?
Yeah, that was pretty
Like,
cool. I think, speaking of long, Triple H in WrestleMania equals long entrance. So I mean, but Stephanie on the bike too. Thought that was a nice touch, right? A little Mad Max-ish look for her, and yeah, they were in their authority prime at that point, just
Yeah.
causing chaos, and yeah, it was all good. But there was one really quick. There was one entrance before, I think Charlotte's.
Oh
For
yeah.
what it was worth, for her
yeah.
match against Asuka to the Space Odyssey, like 2001 theme, and
Eh,
coming off the throne herself.
Yeah, I like hers
She,
too.
she
Hmm.
she had a pretty good one, but then Trips and Steph had a great one.
Yeah. So and then let me show a picture here of Rhonda's outfit for everyone out there. There you go. There's the leather jacket. This one is a little bit different than I think the one that Roddy Piper used to wear, like on the shoulders, and you see it like throughout this whole era. Like everyone wearing the leather jackets, there's something around the shoulders where it has like a cross-cut diamond thing. And I don't remember ever that thing ever being popular back in the 80s when Roddy Piper would have been wearing a leather jacket like that. It's always just been like a regular, no design on the shoulders or
Sir, you
anything
have
like
a
that.
great attention to detail. I don't think I've
Right? Oh
ever
my god.
noticed that ever, but I haven't had too many leather jackets. But you give me something to look for.
Yeah. So it's like I know what they're going and what they're trying to do, but at least Rhonda did go out and get that permission from the family of Roddy Piper to use that Rowdy name.
I will admit, like, I actually stopped watching UFC fights when Ronda got knocked out during one of her last matches. So I was like, I can watch UFC no more. That's it.
It's a
Yeah, she took a beating those couple of two
Holly
times where she faced
Holm
Holly Holm.
and
Yeah.
who I forgot the other one who messed her
Yeah.
up.
So, D, what did you think of this match?
Yeah, you said that you actually you recommend this match, I would
I
think, right?
actually liked it. So the whole build was so there's always been the Triple H Kurt undercurrent for like at that point like 15 years. So there's always some good interaction with those two, but you could tell it was building towards Ronda finally getting in the ring. That's what everybody wanted to see. Like, can she deliver the goods? And if she did, then the brattiest of brats, Stephanie McMahon, would be the one on the other side. So you were looking forward to both sides of that equation happening, right? And then they got to that point. Ronda gets in the ring. They tease. Eventually, Trips gets into the ring, and he has his square off with Ronda. She had a great first match. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. So she
They
exceeded my expectations. I think that's why I remember this so fondly, that it's like, whoa, okay, she's really taking this seriously. And, everyone else played their parts in it. At the end of the day, it was about Ronda.
Oh, yeah.
And this match, it's been like 2 years in the making. I believe WrestleMania 32, The Rock shows up and he's announcing the attendance, I believe, and then Triple H and Stephanie come out and they start talking smack to The Rock. And Ronda is ringside with Shayna Baszler, Marina Shafir, and Jessamine Duke, who all end up going to NXT with her. But The Rock eventually needs backup because The Rock is a gentleman and he's not going to strike Stephanie McMahon. So that's when she gets in the ring. And she also gives a hip toss to Hunter. So this had been like, I think 2 years in the making of Ronda making that transition, trying to get to know how to work a ring and things like that. So this was one of the better celebrity matches, I guess you can call it. It tops what I thought was the first actual decent celebrity one, which I catch a lot of flack for, where Snooki is in one of the, but she was way better than Maria Menounos in the ring.
It took me back. It's Jersey Shore. Wow,
Yeah.
I completely eliminated that from my
No, Maria Menounos was in the
consciousness.
match. Remember?
No, but like, was she in the
She
audience?
was in the
during
audience. Maria
WrestleMania?
Menounos was in the audience
Poor
in this
Maria
particular.
Menounos. She got so much heat during this match, like during this podcast.
Yeah, but Maria Menounos was in the audience.
Maria catching strays.
She is. She doesn't even know.
But I think she was in the audience with X-Pac behind the announcers table. Also with Ata, The Rock's mom, and The Rock's daughter. But yeah, they were in attendance. But mainly, this is one of the few ones where and probably helped that she had 2 years to get it done, and she has some type of, it kind of helps to have a little bit of mixed martial art experience. It helped out Ken Shamrock. It helped out was it Dan Severn for a little bit when he got to get in there, and I can't think of anyone else that's recent from that era that was primarily a striker. Like there've been other ones like Batista, but they didn't do that many things inside of an MMA ring that had a career just like Randy, Bobby Lashley, Ezekiel Jackson, I think was one of them too, but we have not seen in a WrestleMania. He was primarily an ECW talent, I think, an NXT ECW talent. So,
well,
what
are my highlights of the match? Seeing Ronda tossing Stephanie around like a rag doll. Kurt, was here and there, but like you said, it was about Ronda. It wasn't about Kurt, even though I was excited to see him there.
Here's one of those examples of Stephanie being thrown around as a rag doll. Not only in that one, but once eventually Ronda gets the hot tag after Kurt Angle has been pretty much carrying this match for about the first 6-7 minutes.
Yeah,
this was a rough way to come in. I don't know if Stephanie was not ready, but she bounced a lot on those ropes.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie survived for 20 minutes.
She got on this arm bar like I think 2 or 3 times, where eventually she does tap. And Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey are the winners, which I think I'm going to say, just like I'm going to recommend this match. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, I'm going to recommend, whether it's for a newer fan, maybe like a seasoned veteran to come and rewatch it. But if you're a newer fan, I would recommend to watch it, because this is how you pay off a story. Especially like I feel like the story has been going on for 2 years, but primarily like the WrestleMania build of it, like she's not welcome, Ronda's not welcome. This is Stephanie's ring. This is one of the examples where Stephanie comes off as a heel throughout, because she finally had someone else to antagonize that wasn't a male. She's always had that safety net where she's like, well, I'm a lady, you're not going to hit me, are you? And the majority of the time they don't, but especially if they're the baby faces, But
yeah,
this finally gave
you catch a stunner every now and then, but yeah,
one of the few opportunities where someone can actually be okay to give Stephanie her comeuppance, and this paid off if you were committed to this story, not only because of Kurt Angle, because he got himself a little bit of a goodbye match too. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame the previous year, and now he's back and he's the commissioner, and now he still gets a little bit taste of the glory, and
a little bit of the glory.
Yeah, and Triple H is winding down, but he still gets his WrestleMania moment and debut. And who else to be able to help you get into a WrestleMania match than Hall of Famers like Triple H and Kurt Angle?
Yeah, can we talk about for a minute like what might have been? Because I think the rumors, like you mentioned how this started with The Rock and Ronda Rousey, like just what if the instead of Kurt Angle, it would have been Rocky and Ronda?
I think it would have been amazing.
Down in New Orleans.
Yeah,
this was one of the few times where we could play a what if, and this is, I think, one of like the few years where like there was, after The Rock had come out for like 2 or 3 years in a row at a WrestleMania, the rumor just kept coming that he's coming back. He's coming back. He's gonna be in this one, and it was always in the main event. And like for 3 years, I think he wasn't here, because I think he was also supposed to face off with The Undertaker at one point too.
Yeah, like a fan of the Attitude Era. I am a fan of seeing Triple H and The Rock wrestling. Those are good matches. So seeing The Rock in a match like this with Ronda Rousey and Stephanie, I think would have been a great what if.
Yeah. So you also recommend people go out and watch this match, whether they're a newer fan or a seasoned?
I do. Really, you have 2 athletic veterans, right? Kurt Angle, a gold medal winner, an amazing wrestler. I'm a big fan of his wrestling. And Ronda Rousey. She proved maybe a lot of people wrong because I'm sure a lot of people were curious to see her wrestle. She went in all in during this match, and I think she did a great job. Did she look a little rough on Stephanie at times? Yes. But if there's one thing that we see is that the McMahons surely know how to act like a heel so that we're all like, yeah, do that.
Get on.
Get them.
Yeah.
So is it worth revisiting? Yes. The crowd was into it. Ronda killed it for her debut. If you love chaos, some wild chemistry from the four of them, this intergender match, definitely watch it. It was a good time for me. And like I said, probably it was my favorite match of this WrestleMania 34.
Ooh, favorite match.
Yeah.
Then that's a very tough thing for the next match to book. We went from Ronda shining in her WrestleMania debut match to another match where dominance defined the match. We had the SmackDown tag team titles on the line in a 4-way match, right?
The Bludgeon Brothers.
Yeah, we got the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, defending their SmackDown titles versus the New Day, which in this iteration is Big E and Kofi versus the Bludgeon Brothers, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Rest in peace, Brody Lee. And what do we think about this match here?
D, what do you think?
Disappointing, I will say. I like all three tag teams individually. Like the Usos and New Day had their story feud. At that point, it had so many like incredible matches together that I never got old. It never got old. Like I never got tired of seeing that. The Bludgeon Brothers kind of came in, I think, for this particular match, just ruined the flow. They're almost like party crashers, even though if you put them against anybody else, it might have been a good match, like 2-on-2, but to throw them in this triple threat dynamic against this established rivalry just felt like another throw-in, just like that U.S. title fatal 4-way. It's like, oh, you're getting folks on the card at the expense of being able to tell a great story or deliver a great match.
Is this the first time the Usos have been in a WrestleMania card?
Then the main card, yeah, they've always been like on the kickoffs,
Okay.
whether they're in a ladder match or whether they're in a battle royal or whatever. But yeah, this is their main card WrestleMania debut. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
So now that
You're
he's
welcome.
made his comments, and I'm pretty sure that he says that he is not recommending anyone to revisit this match. What about you?
Well, they finally got a main card spot. I just want to point out for those that are new wrestlers, not seasoned veterans or fans, is that just take a look at Seth Rollins, the Usos, and Roman Reigns, who we'll see later on this WrestleMania 34 as the main event, and look at where they are now. So they're big time. As far as this match, I'd say pass. Like you said, the Bludgeon Brothers were there to ruin everything. Match length was a whole 5 minutes and 50 seconds. The time it took Harper and Rowan to flatten everybody. The highlights for me were the New Day's entrance, those little pancakes that were popping out.
There you go. I got a picture of that. There you go.
I'm a big fan of.
You weren't a big fan of the all-white Usos?
Of New Day.
But not the Bludgeon Brothers? Look at that.
Yeah, they look really cool. But like as far as this match, if you love squashes with no real drama, then this is a match for you. But if you want like an epic tag team battle, then this match was just okay. So what do you think about it?
With this one, I mean, it seemed like it might have been from what I could tell, a mixed reaction from the crowd. I'm sure there was a divided crowd. Dee could probably correct me here, but I'm sure there was fans that were on the New Day side and fans that were still part of the Uso side as they're making their more transition into like a normal kind of gimmick as far as, from what they debuted as when they were just giving honor to their Samoan heritage and they're doing their the tribal war dance and things like that before they come down the ramp. So
I'd agree with that.
And so with this one, I feel like this match was pretty much might have been like for a transitional champion type of thing. Like you want to give like a refresher maybe. So that's probably why the Bludgeon Brothers wanted to give it. Like how many times did we see probably the Usos and the New Day go at it during this era? Like there might have been lots of matches that we probably would have had between those two tag teams, whether if it was Kofi and Big E or Kofi and Xavier, or Xavier and Big E. You know, there's that lots of iterations that we have with the New Day as a tag team. But just because of the 5 minutes that they only got to work, I feel like this isn't something that is worth a revisit. It's not a WrestleMania worthy. It's not worthy for someone to revisit, whether they're a seasoned fan or a newer fan, because like the WrestleMania brand, as I feel it is, like Vince has always put it out that it's the Super Bowl of wrestling, and this match just feels like it's just a like filler. Like if you were to have like a Bud Bowl commercial, and this would be the equivalent of something that this match would be, just because it's just there to entertain you and try to keep you in your seat. But if you're like a smart mark or seasoned veteran fan like D or myself, you'll be like, oh, I'm really not really interested in this. You might think that the Usos might end up winning. So you're like, I know the Usos are gonna win. Let me just go to the bathroom real quick. Let me just go freshen up my drink, and then I'll come back. And then you come back and like, what? The Bludgeon Brothers win? Who booked that one? So
So, do you any final comments?
They needed to establish the Bludgeon Brothers at that point, like kind of after the Wyatt family broke up in their way. Like I don't have any issue with them getting the straps there, but again, it just the chemistry in this match just wasn't it. So I don't recommend revisiting this one.
More SmackDown filler than WrestleMania thriller? Pass it.
And with this one, we move on to
match number 6.
Yeah, the next match, right?
Televised.
Which is John Cena. Well, he's getting word that the Undertaker is here, and he's gonna have a match. And who do we get? Hello, his name's Elias.
Bring.
Yeah, it is not the Undertaker. So unfortunately, John Cena is disappointed and he's leaving. But wait, what's happening here? It's the Undertaker. He ends up showing up. We have this match in the making, which I call the franchise versus the franchise.
Ooh.
We have the Undertaker, who has been there since I believe 1987 or 88. And now John Cena, who's been there since 2003.
French fries versus a French fries.
French fries?
No, franchise. Sorry.
So, Dave, how was the setup for this? Were you very upset that Elias said come out at first?
I'm getting hungry.
No, because I thought it was actually genius just to try to,
swerve you guys there.
Yeah, just to throw us off a little bit, and the lights go out. There's a pause, and then you hear the ring, and here comes Elias. Like, oh, that's pretty clever. You got me on that one. Nice job, WWE. But I do think they drew it out way too long, because every step of before was just too slow.
Yeah, this was I think you want to say like two legends, like I mentioned. That was probably supposed to be set up a little bit more, but it feels like a super squash match. And these two wrestlers are a little bit older, and John Cena has also not been working as steadily in the WWE. You know, whether he gets hurt or he's going off and making the Marine 5 or whatever Marine he was up to, or little things here and there, because this is 2018, so he's beginning to branch out just like The Rock did into making movies or TV shows. You can have like a passing of the torch, which now looking back in retrospect, I understand why the Undertaker won, but you can't have it be a squash match either. This is why I can't recommend anyone go back and revisit this match, just because, like you mentioned, this match is probably one that we probably been wanting to see for a while. as fans. It's been rumored and things like that, but it did not have any build up. It was mostly done by John Cena, where he's just going out there week after week calling out the Undertaker, and eventually it comes to the point where he's like, well, if the Undertaker is not going to come out, I'm just going to attend WrestleMania, quote unquote, as a fan. And we see shots of John Cena during the first hour and a half just sitting in the audience, supposedly just as a regular fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this match was shorter than a TikTok. And then we see that build up with John Cena calling out the Undertaker. We see him sitting in the audience, like, I need to have this match with the Undertaker. And as you said, I mean, I can see why he wants it. I think it's pretty cool. And even though I'm still upset that the Undertaker took that loss
against Brock Lesnar,
I'm still bitter. I'm still in my feelings about that match because
it's understandable.
I don't think he should have lost to Brock Lesnar. And so now he's 2-0, right? During this WrestleMania. So we see that.
Well, actually, he's already had the match with Roman Reigns this WrestleMania 33, and he's already lost that. So this is a second. This is his second winning streak attempt of, like, he tried and he won. I forgot who he faced before Roman Reigns. So he was like 21-1, and then he was 22-1.
That's the Bray Wyatt year.
Yes, the Bray Wyatt year. Yeah, where I felt like I was telling Maria that if the Undertaker did not initially lose to Brock Lesnar, he should have either lost to Bray Wyatt and doing like the passing of the supernatural or whatever type of thing would have been, like that would have been it. Or if not, how we had it last WrestleMania 33, where he lost to Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns from that point on has been taking over as the leader of the locker room because John Cena is no longer there, and it hasn't started yet. You still got to put that one down. Okay. But do you recommend this match then?
Do I recommend this match for the memes? Yes. This match was really shorter than like a TikTok. Was it cool to see John Cena get tombstone? Yeah, that's a big body. And the Undertaker is, I'm not sure how old he is at this point, but can I recommend it? If you like a squash match, watch it. If you want to see a match with John Cena and the Undertaker, sure. But it's definitely not a favorite of this WrestleMania 34 for me.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't recommend it in any circumstance. And this is the crazy part. Like, this is the match that I'll admit, like, when they were in the ring and the Undertaker's entrance, this was the one where I had my camera out taking pictures. And, like, this is the match I could tell my casual wrestling fans, like, everybody knows John Cena and the Undertaker. Like, this was it. But everything else, just beyond the names, was a dud.
Yeah.
It just did not deliver at all, and they drew it out trying to fool us too much. Like, oh, is the Undertaker really not going to show? And it just created this. It just sapped the momentum out. But even when you get to the match, oh, bong, Undertaker comes out, yay! Yeah. And then they get into the ring. Maria, you asked, like, you don't know how old the Undertaker was. The answer is 2. He was too old to still be doing what he was doing at that time. Like, so. No, I wish I could say more about this match. I wish I could like it, but I do not recommend revisiting.
Yeah, let's show the parts where D might have had his camera out, like when the Undertaker starts off hot and punches in bunches, or when he did this leg drop onto John Cena, or when D probably thought that John Cena was going to win and he gave the Undertaker the beginning of the 5-knuckle shuffle, only to have the Undertaker pop up and then give him the tombstone for another pin and a win for the Undertaker at a WrestleMania.
So this is a match that everyone may be hyped about because we get a revisit.
But before we get the revisit, we go from 2 WWE legends to other legends that have made their names. We get the 2018 Hall of Fame class of WrestleMania. And we'll start off with my least favorite inductee, besides another one that's in there, Kid Rock.
Was he inducted?
He was too busy not to make it to the actual WrestleMania event.
Wow.
And then we had this year's Warrior Award winner, Jarius, forget his last name, Jackson, I think. Okay. And then we have
Robertson. Yeah, it's right there.
Robertson. Thank you. Couldn't read. And then we have Jeff Jarrett, the last outlaw, Double J. And then if we had watched the WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame class induction from this, him and the Road Dogg sing the rendition of his old song that Jeff Jarrett debuted in the WWE here. Was it Please Be My Baby or something like that?
Yeah, come on, be my baby
Yeah,
tonight.
there you go. Thank
That
you,
was the
Dave.
cut. That could have been on radio.
Yeah. And we have the world's strongest man joining here. Hook 'em
Henry.
Horns, Texas native, Mark Henry. And who else can we add to this very esteemed class besides Ivory? Look at her in her glory here.
Strong
Former
arms.
Glow talent, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, and I believe was she part of PMS? Also, the Pretty Mean Sisters, and the Right to Censor. She spent a lot of time during the early times of the Attitude Era, entertaining us all. Speaking of the Attitude Era, we have these guys, the Dudley Boys, putting out the 3D, the Pride of Dudleyville.
Where's
the
Spike?
fastest. Yeah, Spike's not there. I think Spike was on the outs. I think something had happened to him. I didn't read into it. And then the fastest man alive from WrestleMania 2, he made it from New York to California to talk to Hulk Hogan. Hillbilly Jim was there. And I guess the star of this WrestleMania Hall of Fame class of 2018 was Goldberg, being a little bit extra and eating his pyro to get inducted here. And that was the 2018 Hall of Fame class. What did you guys think here? Is there anything that you guys are a fan of or anything like that of this talent?
What do you think, B?
Well,
he's like, I don't
just
like anybody.
as part of a WrestleMania show, it's I could leave it, right? Like I respect the careers of pretty much all of those folks, and Goldberg was a great headliner for the location. Like, I mean, I think the only better place he could have been inducted is Atlanta, other than New Orleans, but he was still kind of in the South down there, so that tracks. I'd like the Mark Henry grew on me. Like, he was funny during the Attitude Era, but when he turned into, I forgot the gimmick, but like basically, he had that great heel run where he was the champion, beating Randy Orton. That really cemented him like as a legit Hall of Famer. So I thought it was a great class. Jeff Jarrett is underrated. Ivory severely underrated for all of her contributions, like you said, Carlos. But just as a part of, let's bring them out during WrestleMania. Okay, I guess if we need a break.
I think it's just to, like, besides giving the people a break, but also like the people who don't buy the tickets to go see the actual induction ceremony where they give their speeches or where they sing songs or play pranks on each other, like some of them probably do, where they're doing the presentations. So I see where you're coming from, and you're like, I just had this Undertaker match, it's a flop, please give me more action, as you're sitting there. But as someone that is probably needing a bathroom break, if you didn't take it already during the Cena Undertaker one, you're probably like, okay, I already seen them get inducted. Let me go get my merch. Yeah. Let me go see how the merch line is. Let me go take a bathroom break. Let me refill, because there is no way that I am leaving my seat to not see, or to see, excuse me. I'm not leaving my seat so I don't miss Daniel Bryan making his WrestleMania return versus with Shane McMahon.
Don't forget Shane.
Versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. This match is for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to get their jobs back, as they have been fired quote unquote, from SmackDown.
So this match goes on for 15 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yeah. Maria, who were you rooting for? Were you still on the yes movement?
Well, you were a big fan, so I'm wondering, were you emotional? Did you cry? Did I cry when I saw this because he came back and he was rehired? Maybe a little. Excited to see Shane McMahon. He's really been growing on me, especially like with his coast to coast and his hardcore wrestling moves. We're always wondering if there's like some internal bleeding after he makes these like crazy chaotic moves and jumps. So I was excited to see this match. But Brian got taken out immediately after Shane went for like
pretty much
10
that was the work that was scripted, that was part of the match. I'm not sure how much Daniel had was able to work in this particular match. Like, he is coming back, but you still want to be a little bit careful. You don't know his stamina. Like, I don't know anything like that, but you still any wrestler that's been returning from a hiatus, you obviously do not want to run into the ground right away, especially when it's like concussions or any type of neck issues and things like that.
Because we got a big crowd, like a big pop from the crowd. D, you saw him return there in person. What do you think about this match?
I went wild for it. I was there for it. I wanted to see it, and I'm glad he came back. But this is the point at which I think WrestleMania turned for me, where it started out, and it didn't turn for the better, because I think they started out wonderfully, right, with those first two matches that we've talked about, and then you have so that messed up third match, right? Then you got Triple H and Stephanie against Ronda and Kurt, right? So that whole match is all about drawing out the tension, and then, oh wow, Ronda gets in, Stephanie finally gets hers. Then you got to go dud. Then you have big dud with disappointment with Cena and Undertaker. Then you have the Hall of Fame, right? So in my mind, like, Maria, to your point of like, was the Triple H and Ronda and all that match the best one from a momentum standpoint? Yeah, but then you have this potential, right? What a great match that Daniel Bryan's coming back, and what do? They draw it out even more, right? Where the man's not even in the ring, right? So you have basically a 2-on-1 match for the majority of the match, and what we all want does not happen. So if there is a way that, like, on YouTube where you can fast forward, it's like at the 8-minute and 46-second, whenever Daniel Bryan actually gets tagged into the match, if you can fast forward to that point, now you got a good match. Everything that happened before that, I do not recommend. It just stained the whole match for me, how they pulled it off. And I get it, how they want to protect him. I get it, how he might not have been in great shape at that point. He was coming back from a severe injury. I don't care about that. Like, the point of doing this cast is like, would you pay money to see what you saw? Would you go back and spend your time to see what eventually played out? And my answer is no. Sorry. I wish it was just like with the John Cena Undertaker. I wish I could say better. I like Daniel Bryan. Yeah. He had a lot of great moments after that when he was the Planet's champion and all that. So he just had a dud of a comeback. I'm ranting right now. This is y'all show. No, y'all give me a breather on here.
That's good. I mean, we'd like to hear their perspective, because, like, for me, would I recommend this match for season veteran to revisit? No. The only way I would recommend someone to revisit this match is if you're booking a wrestling story. You're building a program and someone's been out for a while. Like this, as far as the match psychology part of it is, like you said, you were just there to see Daniel Bryan's return, right? And they strung it out. Maybe if you hadn't been there for about 3 hours and a half or even longer, this probably would have been better for you. You probably would have been very excited,
But this is match one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If we're under a microscope and you're like, I'm building this program, this guy has been out for 2+ years, he's finally making his return. How do I make the crowd want it a little bit more? And you do it with having the heels, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens attacking Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. And
Kane's
like you mentioned,
face.
yeah. And then you get them booking and getting them in one of those apron pop-up power bombs where, like you mentioned, Daniel Bryan is already taken out. And Maria's like, "Oh my God, is he really hurt?" And I'm like, "No, if they're showing you on the camera, it's a work. They're just trying to have you have that in your brain, like, oh no, Daniel Bryan is really hurt."
He's
And they're
back and
showing
he's
us, yeah.
gone.
One of the best spots that Shane has taken, even though he took it from RVD, was this coast to coast, and this time without a trash can. So I mean, I think with this match, the only thing that I get from this match, knowing the future, is this match showed to me and proved to me, besides team yes money, winning here, is that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are good workers and they're safe workers, and eventually, because of this sets up the match that we get in the future with Kevin Owens and another star that I won't mention that Maria is a fan of, because we have to build a suspense for her, because she might not be aware of who we're talking about, but Dee might know. If you're watching us, you might know. And
Put
thank
in
you
the
very
comments
much.
below so I don't have to
If you made it this far and you're still a fan, please don't forget to give a like, subscribe, and share with anyone that you want to know about professional wrestling, or you want to have become a fan of
or if
professional
you're
wrestling.
listening to us in France.
Yeah. So
That
I
random
only
person.
recommend it if if you're in the industry and you're booking a return. What about you, Maria?
Is it worth revisiting? I did enjoy this match, even though you all have solid points. If you want to watch Shane do dangerous things, go ahead, revisit with me. It was entertaining, a little chaotic, just enough to keep me hooked as a new watcher to wrestling. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I would say revisit, especially if you're a fan of Daniel Bryan and you want to see him return to wrestling.
All right. And with this match, we move on to the next one. While Daniel Bryan was bringing everyone to their feet with a victory over Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, the next match had the task of keeping the energy high, and it was the Nia Jax versus Alexis Bliss, who's accompanied by Mickie James for the Raw Women's Championship. How long did this match go for?
10 minutes and 15 seconds. Dee, what did you think about this match?
I really wasn't a fan of it. I think it had an interesting build up, but I think the characters almost seem miscast, right? So Alexa, the pretty bully, using the size of Nia Jax to kind of help protect her championship as part of that build up there. So I get it, but then when you have the payoff, this match should have switched places with the Undertaker John Cena match. Like, this should have been a Nia squash. Sorry, Alexa. I do like Alexa Bliss, but it just, again, maybe this is my fatigue of just kind of being in that stadium for so long at that point. But I really just think like Nia playing the victim almost, but just visually to the naked eye, it's like this doesn't track well, right? In terms of intuition and that suspension of disbelief that comes with wrestling. So that's what I mean when I say the characters were miscast a little bit. Like, they tried, but I don't think they ultimately had a great match. It should have been Nia, just like, hey, here's my revenge. I'm mad as hell, and I'm 3 times your size, so take this L and give me that championship. But it wasn't. It was just too much. And then even at Nia at the end, so emotional. Like, in real life, as a real person, I get it. Your character, though. No, right? So just everything was just like a little bit off for me in this one.
Yeah. What about you?
For me, I did like Alexa's entrance here. We did see this at WrestleMania 40 with Bianca and Jade also having the same type of entrance. I see where you're coming from here as far as the information, like like Nia is a very like strong woman when you compare her to Alexa Bliss, especially like stature wise.
Mhm.
But she also took out Mickey James, and I believe I saw an interview where Mickey James was talking about this spot, and she said that spot hurt very, very, very much, and she was not happy that she took that spot.
Mm.
But they were busy mean girling Nia Jax, and Nia Jax. This was pretty much a glorified, like an extended glorified squash match, because it's just all about Nia getting her revenge and tossing Alexa Bliss around, just like um a rag doll, like you mentioned. There, the like, would I recommend someone go back and watch this match? No. Uh, this would be one of these things where it's like you have to be like booking something and you might not have seen it, but if you should have, like, this is like A, B, C, D, and the end. Like, this had friends, they were friends, but one was just using the other, and now the other one found out that she was being made fun of. Now they are picking on her, and now the friend gets the revenge. It's very short program, like it's very 1, 2, 3 type of thing, and it's something that probably could have been taken in the course of like during maybe a month long or 2 months long, maybe month and a half long program in like a Raw or SmackDown, and then ending like at a general pay-per-view, whether it's like whatever in your house they would have had. I'm not saying it's in your house, but I can't remember like
Whose
the
house?
names of regular
Whose
pay-per-views that
house?
they had besides
Yeah.
Survivor Series and
Mhm.
Elimination Chamber and things like that. So what about you, Maria?
If you're here for a technical match, I'd say pass because this is not it. If you're here to watch, some bullies get served some karma, then watch it. I was not a fan of this match. It's a pass for me, and I am a fan of Nia, who's still wrestling to today.
Yeah.
I don't think these other ladies are wrestling anymore, are they?
Alexa Bliss is still waiting to come back to have something happen for her character. She had a baby about maybe already 2 years ago, and she's on the mend. She's put on social media that she's ready. She just hasn't gotten a call from Hunter to figure out where they're going. So maybe she'll be coming back for WrestleMania. I mean, for the Royal Rumble, so she can have something coming back for
I hope so.
WrestleMania.
She really
Yeah.
is good.
She's good at
This
that mean
match
girl
went
type of thing,
long.
like being a
Yeah.
heel. But like, I can't see myself rooting for her. Like I've told Maria over the years, like there's some people where you're like, stop trying to be a good guy, stop trying to be a baby face, just embrace being a heel. That's the way you look, and that's the way I see you. Like, stop trying to get out of that mold. Uh,
I
and
couldn't
with
agree
that
more.
one, we move on to
Match number 9, televised, AJ Styles.
AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, the king of strong style, versus the phenomenal one.
That's me.
That's also AJ Styles.
Oh, okay.
And how long did this match go for?
20 minutes and 20 seconds.
20 minutes and 20 seconds. Just like Asuka, Shinsuke also won the Royal Rumble to earn his shot at a WrestleMania main event for a championship here.
Mhm.
Now, you have not seen Shinsuke Nakamura.
I have seen him wrestle.
You
but-
have seen him at NXT,
Mhm.
but in a WrestleMania and things like that, I think you probably only see him like once or twice.
Yeah.
And the same thing for AJ Styles.
We have a lot of solid wrestling in this match. There really was like a slow burn of wrestling, but there was nothing that really caught fire for me. What did you guys think about the match?
I think with this match is more like for those people who might have some history with these two, whether they were over in Japan, where they've had like, I think it's either 2 or 3 matches against each other, and may be familiar with their history. But for us, like in WWE, who may be a fan of both, or are aware of these matches that they might have had in Japan, and we're looking forward to finally see something in the United States with a little bit of Vince McMahon polish and see what they could come up with. I feel like this was very disappointing. What about you, D?
I could take what you said verbatim, like disappointing. Yes. There was a point. So let's go back to how long this match was. I didn't know it was 20 minutes, and but it felt like it. It certainly did. Um, and I'm not just saying that even from sitting there during it, but also when you watch it back, it's like, goodness, like these two, the match came with such great anticipation, but I don't know. I just found myself thinking during the match, like, wow, the rematch is going to be way more exciting than this. Like, I just had to chalk up in my mind that they're sandbagging this first match because it's going to be the part of a 3-match series at pay-per-views down the road. Honestly, there weren't many high spots here. Like, the best part to me happened after the match had ended. It just went on, and we've just seen AJ fly around and do so much, and then Shinsuke's character was so, I think, hot at that point too, the artist, and it just didn't click the way people wanted them to click. The art, there you
Right.
go, Nina Strauss. So quick note, like, so sitting there, they don't introduce Nina Strauss. So
What?
basically, I'm like, who the hell is this?
Yeah,
Right? Just, I mean, I could tell it was somebody important playing them down, but I really had no idea until afterwards who this was. So just side note from someone from who was there in attendance.
Yeah, and even to this day, like when us attending WrestleMania 40, you don't get any introduction to any additional talent
Why? That's weird.
while you're inside of the stadium. Like, I think the only time we got something announced was, besides the attendance and the Hall of Fame class, was who was that rap artist that came out? Do you remember?
I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, whoever the rap artist was for WrestleMania 40, that did like maybe like a 30 or 40-second act, and that was it.
Maybe Meek
And
Mill. Huh. What was
it
it?
might have been
Is
Meek
it
Mill.
Philly? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. So that's one of the things. Like, I can't even remember because it was like such a like small amount of time, and you're like, you had been talking about this, and it might have been Meek Mill. Like, you've been talking about this rap artist being there, being at WrestleMania, and you only had to perform for like maybe 30, 40 seconds, and that's at where we right now we get like P Diddy or Pitbull performing for like 10,
Oh my god.
10 minutes. You know,
No Diddy, man. No
No
Diddy.
no, I'm just
Diddy.
saying. I'm just giving
No.
you an example. Like,
Didn't he?
we'll
No,
get
Diddy.
something like that, but like this artist, we only get like 30 or 40 seconds. You know, so but I see what, like Dee mentioned, the only exciting thing, like, this was just like, I feel like it was a safe match, and this was one of these things where I'm not sure why Vince preferred AJ Styles a little bit more than Shinsuke. Besides, maybe this is probably Vince. Oh, this is Hunter's guy. This is an NXT talent. I don't want him to have my title. I'd rather have this guy who proved himself in TNA and has only been in my company for like 4 years over him. So, but this was the most exciting part here, where they're showing respect to each other, and you think it's gonna go like Asuka and Charlotte.
Do they have
But
a New Japan match?
They did have a New Japan match. Okay. If you want to watch that, I can find the 1 or 2 New Japan matches they had.
Okay.
But and then this is how it started off. Sorry, I put the spoiler picture up. They're giving each other post-match respect, and eventually Shinsuke kneels down and is giving his belt to AJ, but this ends up happening, and we got the Shinsuke heel turn, which currently Shinsuke has returned and is back to being a heel. But I kind of like this one a little bit more. I'm calling him Sithsuke Nakamura because he has that presentation. Yeah, he kind of looks like a Sith because it's been inspired by samurais and things like that. But it's more of an easier read when you type it out than trying to say it, I guess.
That's fine.
But yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the nice current run that Shinsuke is having, coming back and being a heel and taking the title from LA Knight.
Okay, so do you want to? Would you want somebody to reconsider rewatch this match?
No, I do not want anyone to come back and watch this match. just because I feel like it was just played safe, and Vince not wanting to take a chance on a newer talent, which everyone probably felt was probably the way to go to give the title to Shinsuke. I'm not sure how deep am I reading the audience wrong
What
at
do
that
you
point.
think?
No, you're not. I wouldn't recommend the match, but with a footnote to say that in the context of this card, the parallels to the Charlotte and Asuka match, like are evident to me. It's right. Like I think Vince crapped on both of the Japanese Royal Rumble winners, who Triple H likes to promote. And it's just unnecessary. But that's Vince McMahon for you right there. But then also the stark contrast to how the post matches went, where one showed respect, one delivered a low blow.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with both of you. So as far as my final verdict on this match, I think it was cursed with like really high expectations because people are big fans of both of these wrestlers. The match kind of happened. It didn't really draw me in. And that post-match shot, I guess
Celebration.
that was like maybe 5 stars, but otherwise this is definitely a pass for me. And with that, that takes us to match 10 with Braun Strowman and
Nicholas, but he
Cesaro.
hasn't found Nicholas at this point. So it's just the bar coming in and celebrating because they have no idea who Braun Strowman's tag team partner was. Now, how was the crowd reacting to Braun Strowman running around and finding someone to be their tag team partner?
Mr. Broken Record over here and me, they drew it out too long. Which is weird to say for something that was 5 hours long. It's like they should have been trying to cut stuff as much as they could. But another much hyped element that just did not deliver in the end when it came to binding Nicholas. When Nicholas actually got tagged into the match, now that things
Mhm.
became intriguing at that point, but up until that point, it was. But other than what you see on the screen right now, love the entrance. Crowd definitely reacted to the float, and with Sheamus and Cesaro, the bar that gimmick fit Mardi Gras for sure. But yeah, Braun, it was just lackluster.
That's what I was going to ask you. What was the vibe in there with that entrance? Was it a long intro?
It wasn't terribly long. I was curious if they were going to take the float all the way down the ramp, but they kind of cut that off and went to their normal entrance that they did together, which was still pretty cool in of itself. But you would think that this entrance would be like for faces instead of the two heels there, but they had to get a little flavor of Mardi Gras in there, and I get it. So they got no complaints about it, and the crowd responded.
So then we
So
see Nicholas here. What do you think about Nicholas?
I wish they would have done more with it. Like, so it was really kind of cool while you get to the end of the match and it's like, wow, this apparent kid out of nowhere is a tag team champ. Is he going to be on Raw the next day? But but because they didn't do anything like that, then it would just felt like a big waste, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting to hear. So I'm like, this kid looks like he's about 10. It would have been nice to see him um on what'd you say, a Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, or just to do anything with it. But to kind of have Braun win in a squash over two talented folks. Like I don't think Sheamus and Cesaro deserved a 2-on-1 beatdown, even as cool as Braun Strowman was at that time. Just like kind of throwing just destroying backstage sets and using tables and chairs as weapons, projectiles. Like he did a lot of great stuff. But I don't think Sheamus and Cesaro should have really lost 2-on-1 at the end of the day.
So I think some match highlights, we see Braun wrecking everything just for about 3 minutes and Nicholas standing up on the apron. What did you guys think about the wrestling during this match?
I thought that it
passable.
was. Go ahead.
No, that is it. I would pass on it. They really didn't do a whole lot. Uh, yeah, I'm still just wondering, like, even as impressive as Braun Strowman is to beat the tag champs, people of the bar's caliber, 2-on-1, just really is unnecessary, in terms of like crapping on Sheamus and Cesaro, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like more to highlight that Braun Strowman was, the monster among men, that he was able to take out the Raw Tag Team Champions,
Right.
and to not only have this plant, Nicholas. I'm not sure you know what a plant is.
What, like when they have somebody ready to go, or?
Yeah, it's like they already have someone pre-selected, and not only is it someone that's pre-selected, but it's someone that is already known to them or is familiar to what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So this guy Nicholas is the son of the referee that's actually currently in the match. John Cone is referee, and his son Nicholas Cone is the one that gets picked out there. So like Dee's been talking about, like, I don't recommend this match, and I don't like this particular program. Like, Vince had something where he wanted to push this guy Braun Strowman to make him look like a big guy, and maybe it was to not only make Braun Strowman look good, but like the next day on Raw, they vacate the titles, quote unquote, because of his busy fourth grade schedule that he can't defend the titles.
That's cute.
So they have a battle royal because Sheamus and Cesaro want to win their titles back. That's when Braun Strowman tells them that they can't get the titles back because they're vacating it and they have to win it. And then it ends up being where they still don't win it because I think it is Broken Matt Hardy, the team of Broken Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, that end up getting the titles, if I remember correctly.
Right. Like if it went somewhere, or if he was brought back to do something cool or an honorary belt, I don't know, something fun, then maybe this match would have been like awesome. But this was definitely a pass for me, not worth revisiting, and I'd say skip it.
Hmm.
And so with that, we get to the main event.
Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal Championship, the Raw one.
Dee, were you looking forward to this match? Because I personally am not a fan of Brock Lesnar, so I had low expectations of this match going in.
I was looking forward to it because I was hoping that Brock Lesnar would lose. So I think we were of similar minds and they even played up to it in the build up that Roman is talking about how much of a part-timer Brock is and trying to rally the locker room against the part-timer and posing as if he will be the fighting champion and all that. So I could get behind that. This was at the point where Roman was still being booed as a face consistently. But I could look past that to say, hey, dude, you've been through a lot. If you can take the title off of Brock so that we can actually have the title on TV every week, you're the man, Roman. So in that respect, I was looking forward to it.
What did you think about this match?
I mean, the same thing as D, and we were all getting tired. As much as we love saying Suplex City in this house, we getting the belt part-time, as now we've been accustomed to it being defended like at every pay-per-view and maybe once or twice a week on a Monday Night Raw. It's weird, and now that trend is continuing still, because we had Brock Lesnar have that, and then we had Roman Reigns do that, where he became the part-timer. He became the villain that everyone hated and didn't want a part-timer to have anymore. And he had his reasons, because he's going through like his chemo and fighting all of those things too. But now we even get it with Cody Rhodes, where Cody Rhodes, when's the last time he defended his title besides the Saturday night's main event that he had? At a pay-per-view?
At least I agree, but at least he's on TV, right, furthering storylines, whereas Brock would hibernate between like big five pay-per-views, right?
Mhm.
So like big difference there, right? And I think that's just their new model now, where you got him and Gunther talking about Cody now,
Mhm.
like they can. I guess their motto now is to not feature everybody on every show. They've got a deep enough roster where you can let it breathe a little bit. Like some of these champions, they've got enough titles to be able to fill out a show. So I think Cody he hasn't quite fallen into the dark side that Roman and Brock did yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's getting there as far as like part timing and things like that. And I see your point, D, because like if you were watching wrestling back in like the 60s, 70s, early 80s,
How old do you
the
think I
champion.
am,
No,
man?
I know, like,
I'm
we're
just
not
saying
that old.
like
I
I'm
mean,
not saying that you
no
are in
shade to those
particular.
that are
Yeah, I'm
Gray
not.
hair right
listening
here.
and
Hold
watching.
on.
I have it too, but it's just, I'm not pointing
I want
you
to say
out
we're
in
like
particular.
zennials, maybe millennials.
But traditionally, like when there was territories and early times of television, the champion would only pop up once a month, and he would be challenged by the new person that's coming into the territory or the new person that's made himself up through all the levels and things like that. Are we going? Ooh, we are going back to that. It seems like, but I'm not a fan of it because for 30 plus years we've been accustomed to a champion defending at least once a pay per view, or if not once on TV. And I'm sure I'm not the only older fan or longtime fan that has it that way too. And I was on the same boat. And to see that Brock Lesnar was pretty much just uh, dominating Roman Reigns with suplex after suplex
We get
after
like 10
suplex.
suplexes,
Yeah,
like who knows how many, 5 or 6
yeah,
F5s.
we got an F5 on the announcers table. We got an F5 in the ring, and Roman Reigns still trying to come back. Like as far as building Roman Reigns,
Yeah, he bled everywhere.
yeah, we can't show that because of YouTube standards. But
He
like
still
I
was
mentioned,
kicking out repeatedly
yeah,
during
we
this whole
still get
match.
suplex inside. Like I mentioned, suplex city outside, F5 on the table, F5 in the ring. Roman tries to come back with one of his Superman punches, and then he kicks out, and Roman gets busted open, and that's where we're gonna leave it there because eventually he just takes another F5, and then he ends up losing here. But in the long run, I could say that this probably helped out Roman because it kind of ends up being how WrestleMania 39 and 40 end up getting booked. Like he does, spoiler alert, eventually beat Brock Lesnar for the title, but it's kind of like the same way that Cody ends up beating. Like he didn't beat Roman Reigns the first time at the
Mhm.
first attempt, but he does eventually get it, and that's what we have the title right now. So maybe this is the way it's going, but I feel like for that particular character it worked, especially once Roman ended up going heel, which we get like I think this is 2018, so maybe another year and a half after. I think is when we get Roman switching to the head of the table. So I think if we didn't go through this and then Roman didn't have like that build up to it, we wouldn't have the Roman Reigns that we have today. So in the long run, I recommend that if you're beginning to follow Roman Reigns' career, maybe you would watch this match for that if you're just following his character in particularly. But as far as just if you're looking for matches to help you refine your wrestling
Repertoire.
repertoire or education, yeah, don't watch this match.
What do you think about this match, D?
I'm just gonna isolate what Carlos said. Don't watch this match. He had a lot of great points that he said before that, but the most poignant part to me was where he ended. Don't watch this match. It was interesting to see Roman get dropped on his face. Like so Brock, when he's doing his suplex city, he's normally a machine, but it looked like he got tired at a few points where he started doing, instead of the German suplexes,
Mhm.
more like overhead belly to belly, but he legit dropped Roman on his
Yeah,
face
and on
one
his
of those
shoulder
times.
too
So
on one of them.
that that was
Watch
interesting.
wrestling. Do you think he was
It's
Yeah.
not, I don't think it's botch wrestling.
Or
It's
just
just
he was
that
getting
when with
tired?
those over the head belly to bellies, like he's mentioning, it's hard to control you how you're gonna land, especially if you're a bigger man like Roman Reigns. So it's like you're not used to being tossed around. So you're like, do I tuck? How do I roll? I've never been belly to bellied as much overhead. So how do I land? And
He messed
some
him up a few times, one of those times
yeah.
on the apron, but I noticed the adjustment later in the match where he started going over Brock's shoulder and using it as leverage to be able to rotate.
Mhm.
But the things you don't notice in the moment in the stadium, only kind of when you're watching
Yeah,
after the
and
fact on
depending on where your
TV.
seat is, you might not get that angle, and you're like, because I know when we went to WrestleMania 40, I'm not sure how close you sat for this one, but we were still we were in the 100 levels, but a little bit like, where it ends. So we were still a little bit further away from the stage, but we had some of the poles or the canopies, and fortunately for you, you didn't have to worry about that because it was indoors, so you had a more clear line of sight than we did. But
Yeah, I would say pass. This I was not a fan of this match. All the suplexing, all the carnage. I really wanted to see Roman win this match, and it's a pass. I'd say even for that build up or the storyline of him eventually being like the one, and the one to be acknowledged right now, I wouldn't recommend it.
all right, and with that, we have finished this WrestleMania 34 revisit.
Dee, do you have anything to plug or anything that you want to talk about?
No, nothing to plug. I just like getting on here talking about wrestling, and it's a privilege to be able to do so. I love hanging out with you too.
Oh, thanks, Dee.
Yeah, and we had lots of more wrestling to go through, but not that many WrestleMania ones. We did get a suggestion of revisiting the ECW uh, was it the One Night Stand event back in, I believe it's in 2006,
Yep.
which probably would
Hot
have been
crowd.
something we should have watched when we before we had the luncheon event with the ECW talent. We were in WrestleMania 40 for the WrestleCon.
That was
So
interesting. What do we sit at the table
we
with?
saw it with Sabu.
He had a shirt open.
Yeah, so you could always see his scar on his chest, and it wasn't Tommy Dreamer. It was someone else, and I can't
forget who the
remember
ref
his
was.
name.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, we had the ref that's always in the ECW ones who's I believe he's booking talent. The name escapes me. I have it in my WrestleMania 40 notes.
Yeah, but if you haven't subscribed and you want to, please do make comments. And if you're the person that commented to say nobody cares, I want to say you cared enough to comment. So thank you.
Boom.
But again, follow us, listen to us. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on
Apple,
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. If you want to follow us, we're still on X, but it's not something we check regularly.
Are you part of Russell Sky and Blue?
Yeah, Blue. Are you on Threads or anything, or any other type of social media
No,
that people?
I'll keep it simple. Remember, I was watching wrestling in the 60s and 70s, so I mean, we're not getting too deep into the social media these days.
Roasted. Well, with that, thank you for joining us. The
Peace.
Mania will continue another time. Keep an eye on our socials, and we look forward to talking and discussing and revisiting these WrestleMania events and other wrestling events with you in the future.
Deuces.
Ooses.
Bye.